I was talking to Trashman, um, and we kind of both agreed that the alt-right is changing, and in fact it has changed over the past few months. Um, how to put it? The the voice, the volume of the kind of more entry level topics espousing people. So JQ, HBD, that sort of stuff. Easy fucking basic stuff. Demographics as well. These things are really becoming the core of the entire alt-right. And that isn't to say the alt-right in the kind of Radix Journal sense, but the broader kind of online dissident edgy right, including the reactosphere, neo-reaction, and other things. In fact, the reactosphere and neo-reaction are getting phased out. Not they aren't disappearing, but they're where they had formally constituted, especially last year, most of last year and most of 2014. They had definitely constituted an intellectual core of the kind of intellectual network which exists on the internet, which gets called the alternative right. The alternative right is not a movement, for fuck's sake. It isn't an organization. It's a network. But NRX, Reactosphere were definitely huge parts of it last year and the year prior. But now they seem to be kind of being drowned out by a kind of edgy Hitlerian-esque types. If that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. I'm not lamenting it. I'm simply describing this process. And it's come about exactly because the alt-right is decentralized. It isn't an organization. There is no leadership to tell people to have standards or to agree on this point, to disagree on this point. However, those who will try and ostracize people and all that sort of thing, attack people, ridicule people, they will inevitably carve out a section for themselves when no one else goes, because most people can't be fucked to bicker with people on the internet if they have to. If they don't have to, where's the point, right? But therefore, you have people kind of moving away from the center of things. People will not really. I mean, 8chan, for example, its user base has decreased like 1,000 or so members in about 6 months on poll, and that's for a reason. Those people are going elsewhere. Where 4chan's poll is growing, and it's because, or it's normalizing. So you have this kind of phenomenon where the kind of intellectual vanguard of the alt-right is kind of being phased out and replaced with, revisionism, historical revisionism, Jew stuff, etc. Not that there's anything wrong with those topics, but this is what's happening. It's kind of replacing core discussions about philosophy, ethics, metaphysics, things like that. Those things are kind of getting relegated to the sidelines, it seems, more and more. They aren't disappearing, but they become more niche. As the alt-right grows, you have if you imagine like a circle, on the outside of the circle you have all the new people coming in. Most of them are disenfranchised millennials who think social justice and political correctness are oppressing their freedoms. And that's kind of it. but they don't really have any thoughts beyond that. They don't care about truth, they don't care about virtue, they don't care about meaning in life, they don't care about existential questions. They just think political correctness is bad because it tells them what to do. And as you get closer to the circle a bit, people start to realise, hold on a minute, there's more at stake here than the regressive left or cultural authoritarians. There's more to the question than that. And as you get closer to the centre, you get into race realism, differences between the sexes, differences between groups, and you start to touch upon conduct and how you perceive the world and how you treat other people. You actually start to get convictions which aren't liberal, basically. You get further in, you kind of find the Jewish question, you find Marxism, you find history and revisionism, and then you get further into the centre, and where there used to be, it seems, debates and conversations about ethics, metaphysics, and the like, real heavy stuff, like NRX sort of stuff. Like yesterday I was talking with a theological eschatologist, for example. People like him used to be in the centre, but they're being phased out, it seems. They seem to be fewer in number now than they were last year or the year prior. Maybe it's my perception, maybe my vantage point has changed. So maybe I'm wrong here, but this is just what myself and my friend Trashman, maybe he won't agree with me totally, but this sort of thing we were saying to each other. But this centre is now really only revisionism and the Jewish question and those sorts of things. Everything else kind of goes out the window, and therefore the alt-right or alt-righters appear as simply the sort of people who would say, oh yeah, liberalism would work fine if it was only white people, and other such fucking satanic statements. So it's like, yeah, you can have a nihilistic, non-religious, secular, liberal state, as long as there are no Jews, no niggers, no Muslims, and no one else. Those sorts of arguments. And then you have with that you have renegade broadcasting. Oh yeah, women were totally equal to men when we had paganism. And then when the big bad Christians came along and they started oppressing all of the women. Yes, that's totally accurate. What fucking stupidity. But these sorts of things are being said, and I see them and I observe them with increasing frequency. 8chan has changed. Maybe it's a part of it will be the Trump phenomenon, but you will still see people peddling renegade tier shit, renegade broadcasting tier arguments. And if Kyle, if you watch this, if Sinead, if you watch this, you will be filtered. But I don't care about your opinions. And then I know you will share this, and then you'll have something to feast upon, like the vampires you are, like you did with Woes. Woes was clever enough to give it a rest and stopped. I'll totally ignore you if you do that, which is fine. But you see the alt-right kind of changing and becoming quite simplistic, and I think a huge part of it is simply due to its growing in size. There is no central authority, therefore you don't have anyone to dictate what we're really about. You have kind of flagship websites and publications, Countercurrents, Radix, Social Matter, the like. And they are a guiding light. But most normies, they won't read any of that. They'll still be watching Sargon of Akkad on the side. They might look at Breitbart now and again, and they'll lurk Reddit and 4chan. And this does shape the general feel of people, millennials just wanting to be rebellious and shocking and funny, and the kind of ironic Chan kind of culture seeping into the broader kind of intellectual arena where it doesn't actually fucking belong. Obviously, we can have a joke and a jest, that's cool. But there needs to come a point where things are serious. Not everything can be a laughing matter. Not everything can be just a joke, just ironic. Look at Evalion. 18-year-old girl, clearly an attention whore, clearly shouldn't be on the internet, clearly should be working on her own personal life. Now is making videos on YouTube asking people for money. Why? But people facilitate it. She has 3,000 odd subscribers. Some of her videos have tens of thousands of views. There's a market for it. People eat it up. And it's like, that's to be expected. But such a thing is indicative of where the focus seems to be. Even Millennial Woes, and Woes, if you watch this, it's not attacking against you or anything, but even his channel has changed. There's less about small t traditionalism, less about philosophy. There's less of that sort of air to his videos. Now it's kind of all about the white man and that sort of thing. And again, that's simply indicative of things changing. Brett Stevens at America.org the other day wrote a piece, "Why White Nationalism Will Inevitably Fail," or something like that. Such views are absent from everywhere but the reactosphere or neo-reaction, where America.org kind of resides. Whereas maybe a year or two ago, more people would have found that, and it would have been, there would have been more fuss made over it. But now it's just kind of ignored because no one sees it, at least not on the alt-right. And that's because the people who are coming into the alt-right are different, and due to the nature of the kind of, it's a network, you can't control who comes in and so on. You can't control how the information is really disseminated. Normies. It's so fucking cringy saying that out loud. But normies will flock to whatever suits their palates. And if they're liberally minded, they might have edgy views, but if they're liberally minded, if they think like liberals, if they act and live like liberals, if they have a liberal morality about them, in how they conduct themselves, and how they live their lives, and how they make decisions, if they think like a nihilist, that will influence the general tone of the network. And indeed it has done. I don't know, those are just some thoughts. I don't want to name and shame anyone. I'm not saying this or that is bad per se. I have my own personal tastes, of course I do. The alt-right cannot be one thing or another. It can't be forced unless someone takes an initiative and tries to control it. But I think people would generally resist that, which is why I think a lot of people moved away from NRX. There are still a lot of people at NRX with neo-reaction who were interested in neo-reaction, but it's definitely a niche crowd than it was. And it's because it's like at the Social Matter forum, for example, no women, not too much shitposting, no real names. Uh, they will impose rules like that. Um, it's just kind of more elitist, and people who are kind of more liberally minded think that's pretentious, or think, oh yeah, they just think they're cleverer than everyone else. Well, they are. Um, but the very fact that people would say that, I there was this thread on the Right Stuff forum, and I was criticised for saying, oh, these are just neo-reactionary tier arguments. You just think you're cleverer than everyone else. The only people who would say that are liberally minded sorts of people. Um, it doesn't matter if I think I'm cleverer than someone else. It's completely irrelevant. It's of no importance or significance whatsoever. I know people who I know I'm cleverer than, but so do I know people who I'm much more stupid than. That's the way it is. But the sort of people who make those sorts of arguments, they seem to be becoming more common. And again, maybe I'm just speaking from my own anecdotal experience. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm gonna make a prediction. I don't want this to go over 20 minutes really. I'm gonna make a prediction. Over the next few years, you will see this sort of trend continue. You will see genuinely intellectual information, media, websites, articles be kind of not so much removed or destroyed, but moved out of the spotlight. And in its place, you will see coarser, more kind of vulgar, kind of realpolitik styled, sort of stuff. And you will see this kind of loose network. You will see it begin to centralize. You will see it begin to kind of take a more concise shape. The nuance will be lost. Where you'll have people kind of arguing all the time, you will see that kind of disappear. Where you will have people who just can't be fucked to argue anymore. And they will move away. And they will probably stop engaging, form their own websites, communities, or they'll just kind of get on with their own lives. And they will stop, and there will be fewer people like that in the alt-right. But you will see the thing kind of centralize, I think. I don't know how it will happen. Maybe it'll be around a certain website or a certain forum. It might be one of the image boards, I don't know. Or around a certain person or event. But it will then fall apart. It will centralize to the extent of establishing an orthodoxy. And then it will become brittle. It will harden until it and solidify until it becomes brittle and snappable, and it will break apart. And the alt-right as we know it will cease to be, or it will take form elsewhere. It will you'll see elements regroup in the years to come elsewhere in different places. Things like neo-reaction will stay solid and concise. Neo-reaction will never become brittle. Even though neo-reaction isn't actually too specific itself. It has been sort of privatized by Nick Land and the like, but it's if people disagree, it's weird. If people disagree with each other in neo-reaction, they will debate. There'll be no name calling. There'll be no ad hominem or smears or someone might write an article. Someone will say, "No, I disagree with that. Here's why." In the alt-right, it's kind of, oh, that person's a cuck. Oh, they're just a larper. Oh, this, that, this, that. All this just runs off of the anonymity-tinged style of image board culture. But I think it will eventually change and kind of solidify, and the alt-right will be a term people will stop using. I think even Richard Spencer has already stopped using it. I mean, Richard is a leftist anyway, at least in my opinion. But I think he started to kind of stop using it. Other people have stopped using it as well. Trashman was telling me he doesn't like associating with the term anymore, and I totally understand why. I kind of do, but it's not a. I don't, For now, I think it's okay. But you'll see people start to disengage eventually, and things will. I don't know. I think Trump will be a big part of it. Donald Trump and his presidency will be a big part of it. We are scheduled to see another economic downturn in the next 2 years. It's every 7 years it happens, and I think Trump will be in office when that happens, and I think that will be a big moral factor regarding the alt-right. It will act as a catalyst, an emotional, a psycho-emotional catalyst, as will any future events in Europe. But yeah, we've hit over the 21-minute mark now, so just to recap, the alt-right has changed in the past couple of years, and it will continue to change. And I think what will happen is it will centralize ideologically around a fixed point, and people will move away. Even though it will continue to grow, more people will be involved, but their membership, quote-unquote membership, will become vaguer and vaguer as time goes on, and then you will see the kind of solidification of this central clique, of this central ideology, of this central orthodoxy. It'll become brittle, collapse, and you'll have all these remnants, and they will go on to form other things. So you will see things come out of the alt-right, movements, not just networks, come out of the alt-right, past political parties maybe, organisations, and obviously other smaller networks. They will all residually survive this event which might happen. I think it will happen over a couple of years, and I think it will be a very slow process, and I don't think you'll really be able to tell it's happened until it's all finished. That's just my words. Maybe it'll be worth something, maybe it's completely worthless. We'll see. Time will tell. Just an observation, just a thought. So yeah, thank you for listening.